Lesson 3, Unit 4, Information Management. Information is an asset, and just like other types of asset, it needs to be managed in order to increase its value to the project, the organization, and stakeholders. The purpose of managing information is to ensure the project and its stakeholders have access to the right information at the right time. A characteristic of results-based project management is that it requires information to make decisions about the progress of the project. This information has to be relevant, good quality, useful, and timely for the people that need to make decisions. There are two types of information the project will manage: process information and results information. The first one deals with the project inputs and activities. This is information on the scope, schedule, and cost of the project. This information helps determine if the project is completing the work as planned. The second type of information is on results, the outputs, outcomes, and impact of the project. This is information on the log from indicators that help determine the results of the project. Both are important. The first one helps measure the efficiency of the project. The second one measures its effectiveness. Managing information follows a cycle process that contains 6 phases. These phases are the analysis and plan, the collect and organize, analyze and transform, report and communicate, use and decide, and finally to evaluate and adapt. This is a continuous process that ensures that at every cycle there are improvements in the process to manage information. Depending on the complexity of the project, the cycle might have more or less phases, but essentially it contains the phases that go from the identification of information to the evaluation of the process. The first phase of the information management cycle is an analysis of the requirements and development of the plan to manage the cycle. The requirements for information come from the needs of the project and the needs of key stakeholders who need information to make decisions about the project. The log from indicators provide the basis for the information needs of the project. Each indicator is a set of data that needs to be collected. This information is organized in the monitoring plan. The plan will identify the type of data, the sources, the collection methods, frequency, and responsibilities. Collecting data and organizing the data is the next step in the information management cycle. Data collection is a continuous process during the life of the project. The monitoring plan will include information on when, where, how, why, and who collects information. Depending on the volume of data, the project may have a central repository of all the data collected by the project. This includes manual and electronic systems to organize information from surveys, interviews, and even research. In this phase, the goal is to analyze the data collected and transform it into useful information by adding meaning and context. The analysis of trends seeks to understand the changes that are happening and how they are related to the planned objectives. When data is processed, organized, structured, or presented in a given context so as to make it useful, it is called information. For example, the project had a target to reach 1,000 families in the first quarter, but the data shows that in the first month only 200 families were reached with the communications campaign. Identifying deviations is an analysis that looks at what was planned and what is actually happening. This can help make changes to the project plans before it's too late. Useful information requires a good analysis of its meaning and the implications for the project. The next phase uses the analysis to generate reports. These reports are requirements from key stakeholders such as the donors, senior management partners, and even government officials. These reports must meet specific requirements in terms of content, delivery methods, and frequency. An important characteristic of a good report is that the information they convey must lead to an action. It is not enough to show charts and numbers, but an interpretation of the information and its implications to the project. A report will have specific recommendations and a call for action. Even if it's not required, the project manager should communicate all the stakeholders on the status of the project, the decisions that were made with their participation, the progress made, and the challenges ahead. Stakeholders that are well informed about the project are more willing to continue their support and contributions to the project. Information doesn't have any value if it's not used. The whole purpose of the information management process is to get the right information to the right people at the right time. If the information they receive is not used, then it doesn't add value. Information helps us make better decisions. Decisions that can increase the impact of the project or decisions that can help reduce the losses and avoid costly mistakes. When we act on information, we are creating new knowledge. Knowledge is what you get when you combine information with analysis and experience. For example, from experience, a project manager will recognize that it's quite normal for a project to have a slow start. 200 families reach out the first month is normal when all the factors are the same, and that the numbers will go up and meet the planned target. The final phase of the information management process is to evaluate and adapt it to the needs and new requirements of information users. A simple survey or direct conversations can help get valuable feedback from the users of the information process. Another approach is to audit the process to see if it's working as required. The audit can help identify areas where the information takes too much time or areas where the information doesn't meet the required levels of quality and security. Finally, the evaluation provides opportunities to improve the process and adapt it to the changing context of the project. The Information Requirement Matrix is a simple tool that can help identify all the information needs of stakeholders, from donors to beneficiaries. The Information Requirement Matrix organizes those needs in a simple tabular format that can help identify priorities, assign responsibilities, and determine the schedule to process and report on information. This matrix can help design the information management process, and it's a source for all people with responsibilities in each step of the information management process. Here are some basic principles of information management. Avoid collecting duplicate information. Share and reuse information, respecting legal restrictions. Ensure information is complete, accurate, current, relevant, and understandable. Support access to information, respecting privacy policy and legal requirements. Safeguard information against unlawful access, loss, and damage. And preserve information in accordance with its operational, legal, financial, and even historical value. Information management is a critical factor for a successful development project. Result-based project management is based on good information to make timely decisions about the project. The main reason is that change happens. The initial strategies, assumptions, and understanding of the context are constantly changing during the life of the project. These changes can have significant impact on the project. Having timely access to information can help senior management, partners, beneficiaries, and other stakeholders make good decisions. Another important component of results-based project management is communications management. It is estimated that a project manager spends about 80% of his or her time communicating with key stakeholders. While information is mostly a one-way process, communication requires a two-way process. Communications in project management is not just sending progress report. It's a strategy to build relationships and increase trust and improve support to the project. A good tool to help manage communications is to develop a communication plan that identifies the purpose of communications, its key messages, audience, format, frequency, and responsibilities. The communication plan guides the communication efforts of the project to reach to its stakeholders and promote the goals of the project. The plan is a guide for anyone at the project or in the organization that seeks guidance on how to communicate information about the project. For example, the plan would provide guidance to communicate with beneficiaries in order to increase their participation in the project. It will have the key messages that are important to them and the best format to deliver the message. The purpose of a communication plan is that everyone in the project understands the key messages to communicate to stakeholders, reducing ambiguities and confusion about the goals of the project. Just like the information matrix, the communication matrix helps summarize the content of the communications plan into an easy to read table that team members can use to act on the communication activities. The matrix can contain the following elements: the audience, such as donors and beneficiaries, the purpose of the communications, clarify reports or coordinate activities, the medium or channels, such as meetings or presentations, the frequency, like monthly or quarterly, and the owner of the communications, which can be a project manager or a communications officer, and specific deliverables and the format of those deliverables, such as reports, charts, or even videos.